I'm actually on schedule this time, but I'm going to drag my feet just a few minutes. We'll give everybody a chance to come who's coming. How's everybody doing today? It's good to see everybody. I'm glad you're here. I know the excitement of the topic is like, we're going to talk about how the church is organized. I'm going to do something different. Does that surprise you all? So that maybe it's not quite as monotone as everybody might think it's going to be. Hopefully it's going to be something useful and helpful for everybody. I got questions today. I've been talking way too much, and I've made space and time for us to actually have a conversation, which is what I really want to have today. And I want to start with this one. What is a United Methodist Church pastor supposed to do? Throw out things, because there's things. What's a United Methodist pastor supposed to do? Enable the laity to run the church. Wow, that's a good answer. Who wants to go after that one? Go ahead, Marilyn. What? Offer counseling and sympathy and encouragement. Thank you. Yes, John. Sacraments. He was here last week, so he gets. That's good. That's good. Yeah, you officiate over sacraments. What else does the United Methodist pastor? Is that it? Mary. Baptize, that's more sacraments, yep. Good, thank you, Becky. Spiritual what? Leader, spiritual leader, thank you very, very much. What else? Visit the shut-ins. What else? Hospital visits, yeah. What else? Preach, yeah, I was hunting for preaching. I was like, I'm over here. Preach every now and then, that happens, yeah. What else? It's really kind of strange because we go through, 100 years and we never tell anybody what a pastor actually is supposed to do. And it isn't until we go through the Board of Ordained Ministry to answer our call to become a pastor in the United Methodist Church where we really get the details of what a pastor is supposed to do. Well, let's break this down just a little bit. A United Methodist Church elder. I'm an elder. That means in the traditional service, I wear that stole around my neck. I'm an ordained elder. And we're ordained to 4 things. You know how much I like keeping things simple, right? We could have gone on and on and on, but there's really 4 things that we're ordained to do. And one is word. What that means, you see, it's a capital W. To preach and teach the Word. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To preach and teach the Word. That's why pastors will teach Bible studies or lead Bible studies. We're not the only ones that do that, but it's one of the things we're ordained to do. And then preach. So to help people encounter the Word. That's Word. Service. So Jesus had this line that just is a very, very important line. I come to serve, not to be served. Sometimes churches put pastors up high on a pillar like they're untouchable, when the truth of the matter is the pastor should be down in the muck and the mud with everybody else. We should be serving right alongside. That's why I do spend time in the soup kitchen. It's why I do get involved in other things where it's sweat equity for Jesus. I mean, if I'm trying to lead people into it, I got to be there, right? And if God's trying to lead people into it, God was there. That's what Jesus showed up to show us to do. Service. Somehow we skip by that one, but service is a very important 1/4 of what we're ordained to do. Sacrament. Thank you, John. Sacrament. We officiate over the sacraments. How many do we have in the United Methodist Church? Just look at the cues. 2. What are they? Baptism and Holy Communion. That's good. And one of the things I forgot, John, I don't know about the South Georgia Conference, but in North Georgia, here was a showstopper, a trick question the Board of Ordained Ministry would always ask. A pastor answering their call gets to that point of the process where they're sent as a provisional pastor for 3 years to serve in the life of the church, and there'll be a pastor somewhere, and then they come back to the board again to go through another day of oral reviews, and in those oral reviews, the trick question is always, how many baptisms did you do? There's only one answer to that question. Now, if you're not in the right headspace, it's real easy to forget and go, we did 12. It was a great year. Or these last 3 years has been great. We did 3. I did 3. All those are wrong answers. The only right answer, you know it, Suzanne. I did 0. Because who's doing the baptizing in our belief? There you go. Got it? 0. Okay, so I officiate over the sacraments, but I don't do the sacraments. I'm just being used by God to officiate the sacraments. And then here's where I'm landing to set up today. This fourth one just kind of gets forgotten about, particularly when you show up as the new pastor in the church and say, "Hi, I'm your new lead pastor. I'm your new senior pastor." Everybody goes, "We love you today." And then you start doing stuff and it's like, "Oh, we're not so certain we love you quite as much." We are called, ordained by God to order, and actually the word would be organize the life of the church for mission and ministry. That's what order means. It doesn't mean we command orders. It doesn't mean my way or highway. It just means we are ordained by God to order the life of the church. To do what? Well, there's a mission. We clergy are deployed by the United Methodist Church to carry out the United Methodist Church mission. And what is the United Methodist Church mission that is shared by every United Methodist Church in the world? Yeah, just read the screen. You got it. Yeah, it used to be to make disciples of Jesus Christ, but then we kind of decided that wasn't enough definition. It was to make disciples of Jesus Christ, to go change the world, to bring about the kingdom of heaven on earth, to make for the transformation of the world. That is what we're here to do. So can you measure that? Not really. And therein lies the challenge. So we try to do our best to work with a congregation to organize the life of a church, to do things where the church may go, "Oh, I really like that. Oh, I don't really like that part, but okay, if he thinks that's something that we need." What's driving us is that. Right there, the mission of the church. It's why we're deployed. That's why we're appointed by the bishop. By the way, did you know I'm actually appointed to the Statesboro community? That's another technical detail. You know, wait a minute, I thought you were appointed to this church. Well, I am, but technically I'm appointed to the community. You feel a little John Wesley in there? The world is my parish. Okay, so we get that far. So there are different kinds of pastors. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I want to get to this awesome, awesome PowerPoint presentation that I have for you to just ooh and ah at. Okay. Some of you have seen it, some of you hadn't. But just like there's different balloons in the sky, there's many different kinds of pastors. We have pastors, people who God clearly called to be a church planter. That's where there is no church. We are going to plant a church here, and this pastor is going to go where there is nothing and make it happen. And there are pastors that are really gifted at doing that. Those are the folks that are very dynamic people. They're the kind of people that can walk into Kroger's, and when they walk out, there's 3 people following them. You know, they're just very, very gifted at gathering people. They may not be gifted at building buildings. They may not be gifted at doing all the other things, but they're gifted at that. We have healer pastors, and I'm not saying come be healed. I'm talking, when I say healer, I'm talking about something bad has happened in the life of the church. And until the church gets over that bad thing, nothing's going to happen in that church. And so here is your interim pastors. Here's your Doug. Here's your pastor who comes in and says, "I'm going to helicopter in for a short season of life. I'm going to walk with you as we process what just happened to us. And I'm going to help plug a few holes with all the fingers and toes that I've got. And I'm going to help us get ready to receive something that's going to bring energy." All right? So that's a healer pastor. Literally, until you sit around the table and sing Kumbaya together, nothing's going to happen that's going to be something new. A renewal pastor, that's what I am. That's the pastor that brings energy after the church is ready. You know, I'll always remember I was wishing Lisa Lee was going to be here because she was in the SPR at the time, and I remember when I met her for the very first time, she was our lay leader, and the pastor and the lay leader worked side by side, and I said, "Lisa, I want to know where we are in the life of this church." And she answered with 2 words with that Lisa Lee smile on her face that says, "This is the truth. We're ready." That's all she said. We're ready. And a renewal pastor brings crazy new things, says we need to do some things that maybe we haven't done before. We need to try some things. We need to try and probably fail at a couple of things. It's okay because we're going to learn, and we're going to try to get out into the community as much as we can, and we're going to try to connect people as best as we can, and we're going to do all of these things. It's energy. It's energy. And even though I am 60 what? 6? Am I 66? I will be in August. Even though I'm 65-ish, I still pray I'm bringing energy. I still pray that that's part of who God has created me to be. And then we have builder pastors. You know, there's churches that get into that season of life. They're busted at the seams. They need to expand. They've got maybe land, or we need to get land, and we need a capital campaign to do. There's pastors that are just gifted at that. They do it very, very well. But here's something we've learned about that. The pastors that are gifted at that, they're not gifted at, now once you have the building, programming it out, actually using the building. It's a different set of gifts and graces. And so there are program pastors. There's chaplain pastors. This one hurts just a little bit, but it has very, very, very profound meaning in the kingdom of heaven. A chaplain pastor goes to that church that is dying and walks with them with integrity. Doesn't ask them to do 25,000 things. You know, the reason usually that you have that situation is the community has changed. The mill has shut down. I don't know. I'm just pulling things out. And we used to have 50, and now we've got 3, or whatever the case may be. And walks with people and honors that walk, that season of life. And there's many, many more. That's not from a book anywhere. That's just from the reality of there's... Have y'all noticed that if you've been in a Methodist church, there's different kinds of pastors? Would you agree with that? Yeah. And so imagine what the cabinet, what the bishop and the cabinet are doing every year, because we're appointed. How long at a time are we appointed pastors? 1 year. So every year there's a process that unfolds that says, is it right for this pastor to stay, or is it right for this pastor to go? All right? And the reason for that is the only person who had all of those gifts was named Jesus. Ever since, we've all been lacking in something. And so the goal from a cabinet and the bishop's perspective is to always put the right pastor for the season of life that the church is in. Does that make sense? And I can just tell you, they try really, 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 really hard to discern that. But when you're dealing with 1,200 clergy and 700 churches and how you put all those pieces together every 12 months, a lot of prayer. Okay, so we got all of that. A renewal pastor always comes, I'm sorry for the image, spiritually pregnant. I used to just say comes pregnant, but then that got weird, so I added the word spiritually. A renewal pastor shows up with something that's growing inside of him or her, something that him or her is desperately looking for partners and allies to join with, because it's that sense of something that God is wanting to do uniquely in this setting, and it's for a day such as this, a time such as this. It is now. It is go time, okay? And it shows up in many ways, but for us, I've done everything I can to share my pregnancy with you. And that pregnancy is in the form of our church sacred calling, because that forms everything that we're going to be doing, working on from a renewal standpoint going forward. Y'all know our church sacred calling, right? I know you do. Through us, God will do 4 things. What are the 4 things? All right, why reach people? Because that's what Jesus said to do, is a good answer, all right? We're talking about not reaching people that have been here before. We're not talking about reaching people who, we want here. We're talking about reaching people that God wants to be part of what is happening at this church at this time in this season of life. To reach people who are not here now. How's that for a definition? What's the next one? That one feels weird and sounds weird, but here's the thing. Have you ever gone into a church and been a visitor, a first-time visitor in the life of a church, and had absolutely nobody say anything to you whatsoever? Anybody had that experience? Did you go back? No. It's really weird. We want our space, but we want people to know we're alive. We don't want to get too close, but we want to get close. But we don't. But that's us. And touching souls is, part of it is, good morning, it's nice to meet you. My name's Mark. What's your name? I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad you're here too.
Great. That's part, but that's not the depth of what I'm talking about. Touching souls means someone sees me. Someone actually sees me when I come. All right? What's the third one? Somebody beside the pastor's spouse, it'll make me feel better. Change hearts, right? So we come to church, when we leave church, we're supposed to be leaving different than when we came. That's why we do Bible studies. That's why, there's that time of preaching. That's why the music and the prayers, that's why we come and gather together, is we come to be changed. And I know humanity hates that word change. I know it. But how is God bringing about the kingdom of heaven on earth? By keeping the things the same? Did you know the church is actually God's change agent in the world? We're the change agent. And if we're the ones going, we want it all to stay the same. Boy, have we missed our calling. Change hearts. And the last one is launch disciples, because that feeds into the mission. So, how do we do that here at Statesboro First United Methodist Church? Because that's what we're going to talk about right now. How do we do that at Statesboro First United Methodist Church? A few of you saw this when I first came, because I presented it, I think, to church council, when I first came. But think of, I'm into metaphors today. Today's metaphor day. So the metaphor is there's two different shores. There's the shore over here on the left side that is the me-centered way of life. And you see the little man that is there, this guy over here hiding under the tree. And then on this other distant shore, you have, and this is kind of Wesley, he's the one that talked about two shores, you have the God-centered or other-centered way of life. Do you see how those are two completely different ways of being in the world? One, it's all about me, and the other one, it's all about God and you. All right? So there's this big body of water that represents the chasm to where, how do we get from here to here? What do we need? Well, if we cooperate and respond to God's grace, there I threw a little theology in on you, we find ourselves on a journey to the distant shore, but let's just say for the sake of this metaphor, we can't swim. How are we going to get from one shore to the other? A bridge. How do we get there? We've got to build a bridge, and God's grace provided the bridge. It's called the church. So think of this church, Statesboro First United Methodist Church, as the bridge between those two shorelines that are completely separated. The bridge is the church. And, okay, I'm not hearing any oohs and ahs. Okay, all right. It doesn't get much better than that, so, work with me here. The church builds a bridge for people to walk across, and I'm going to say it right now, don't forget. And the church places people along the bridge to help bring people along. Okay? So we're going to build a bridge, and we're going to place people at various points across the bridge. So let's build a bridge. And what's the first thing you need when you build a bridge? I'm going to take the water away so we can build a bridge. What's the very first thing you need if you're going to build a bridge? Before you ever put any supports up, what do you need? A foundation. You need bedrock. We're going to build something that's going to be kind of big, and we need something stable that it's situated on. We need something that's the bedrock. In this church, in the United Methodist Church, the bedrock is the lay leadership team. The lay leadership team used to be called the denominations team. That's the team that discerns who should be in the various leadership roles as we build this bridge. All right? Now, some people go, well, that's real easy. You just find people that say yes to a hole and you plug them in. If you do that, your bridge will never be built. your bridge will fail. Your bridge will not be able to provide the results that you're hoping it does. You're talking about discernment of gifts and graces for specific needs. You're talking about looking at group dynamics. You're talking about what piece is this group missing that it needs? What resource does this group need that it doesn't have? What kind of leadership does this group need that it doesn't have yet? All of those pieces are part of the lay leadership team. Here's trivia question number 1. What's the only team that the lead pastor, is the chair of? That one. Makes sense? And it isn't so I can put my people into it's so that as I get to know everybody, what I'm trying to do is not only build a relationship with you, Mark, but to have this insight into your unique gifts and graces, your superpowers. All right? Matthew, you got superpowers. You got them. And if I know what they are, then we can bring that into the conversation of the lay leadership team and say, here's a really good place where Matthew would plug in because this is his superpower. All right? That's why the bedrock is that lay leadership team. Then what do you need after you have bedrock to build a bridge? Stay in the metaphor. Now you need the supports, right? Think Golden Gate Bridge. Let's think big here for a minute. So put that image in your head. So you need these supports. And if we're going to do a bridge, we've got 3 support pillars. What are they in our church? They are the trustees, SPRC, and finance. Now, why are these the support pillars? Well, let's talk about what each group does. SPRC, what does Staff Parish Relations Committee do? Well, I'm going to go at this in 2 ways. We're going to talk about what they do in a growing church, and we're going to talk about what they do in, that's a bad analogy. How about in a church that's going up versus a church that's going down? How's that? So in a church that's going down, what does the SPR do? Come on, be honest. It's that dang pastor. If we could just get the right pastor, we'd be fine. Right? Because it's always the pastor. The irony of ironies is that same pastor that they get rid of goes to another church and ministry blooms. You ever thought of that? Why does that happen, I wonder? Now, in a church that's going up, what does SPRC? I heard it. What does SPRC do? Yeah, bingo. Spoken like a really good, experienced SPR chair. Thank you. Thank you, Alice. She said, find more personnel. So they're in the mode of, what's next? What's the piece on the staff team that we don't have that we need next? They're the ones that should be the visionaries, always looking 2, 3, 5 years out. What's the plan? As we grow, what are we going to need next so that we can start putting that plan in place? What's next? All right? So that we continue to meet the need. And when we have staff, their purpose, thank you, Hilda, for bringing the focus to, does staff run church for us? It's a trick question. The answer is no. Staff are there to help equip you, the laity, run church. But it's so easy to say, well, we pay them, therefore they should do it so we don't have to. And that's counter to what we're trying to do. We do pay them, but we pay them to help equip all of us to claim our mission in ministry. If everybody did something, wouldn't that be heaven? Wouldn't that be heaven? Okay, trustees, what do they do? Tell us what we can do, what we can't, or what we need. Yeah, trustees actually are the people, that's the group that's over the assets. So they're over the property, they're over the buildings, they're over the stuff. But with the specific, in a church that's growing and healthy, with the specific focus of ensuring that the assets support the plan to do ministry. Ooh, did you hear something? The ministry plan. So that what we're spending our money on is to deal with what's getting in the way of us doing our mission. When the roofs are letting water in, at some point the building's going to be shut down because of mold. So that's a priority. So what are the things that are getting in the way, and what are we going to need next? If we're not in this situation, but if we were in a situation where we were a church that needed more buses, more vans, well, who's going to come up with that recommendation? It's the trustees. What do we need to support the mission and ministry that the church is moving into? Okay? And then finance. You think that's an easy one. What does finance do? You can go ahead and say they're the ones that oversee the money. That's true, but that's kind of let's again look at the two situations. A church that's going down, they're usually the ones that are looking at what money we have. On a church that's going up, the finance team is laying those plans for how do we increase the resources, the financial resources that we have so we can do the ministry plan, a growing plan. So do you hear the difference in the way you interpret these groups? Yeah, it's very simple. People, assets, money. But what it really is, the people to support the ministry plan, the assets to support the ministry plan, and the resources, the financial resource to support the ministry plan. The people in place that help discern all of that, and this is just 3 pillars. We're going to build the rest of the bridge here in a minute because there's a lot more people involved in this. This thing called the ministry plan, what is that? So, businesses in the secular world have budgets. Businesses have budgets to have ledger sheets with income and expenses. And businesses are trying to make a what? A profit. Is a church trying to make a profit? We are a non-profit. We have a group non-profit designation with the IRS. We are official and final. We are a non-profit. So we're different. So how are we different? Well, in a renewal pastor's perspective, when you walk into a church, you're looking at first, from a trustee standpoint, what are the things that are getting in the way that we're going to need to do something about so that we can move forward? And then it's, from a finance standpoint, do we have the resources to do the things, to do the ministry? Because guess what? Ministry costs money. Is that a surprise to anybody? Ministry costs money. Do we have the resources to do it? And the ministry plan is one of those tools that the renewal pastor uses to say, look, let's figure out what we're committed to as a gathered group. What is it that our plan to do ministry will include for the coming year? And for the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. And let's plan on doing all the things we need to do to walk into that ministry plan, which that ministry plan is not we keep doing what we're doing, it's doing what we're doing and. That makes sense. So think of the rubber band. It's like there's a stretch and then there's the response. There's a stretch and there's a response. There's a stretch and there's a response. Because if you don't do that, what does the church look like in 20 years? Just like it looks like today. And is that what God is calling us to be? I believe absolutely not. I believe you've been placed in a very strategic place, being a downtown church in the neighborhood that we're in, and with the resources and facilities and assets that we've been blessed with. I think God is calling us to do a lot. Now, we're not going to, sprint first. We're going to figure out what we got to do and how we're going to move forward. But God is calling this church to be something that I think most of the people in this church haven't even grasped in their own vision yet. So, let's put the rest of the bridge together. The leadership teams, which are those 4 teams, SPR, trustees, finance, and lay leadership, those are the leadership teams. Some people call them the administrative teams. That kind of knocks them down into the old boredom world. And it's really not an administrative team. It's the leadership teams. If those teams don't rock, everything else we're about to build on to make this bridge, it isn't going to hold up. If I don't have money to do what I need to do, if I don't have the assets to do what I need to do, and if I don't have the people helping us figure out what we need to do, we're not going to do, right? So what are these leadership teams? Well, They're the four pieces, the bridge, the roadway that people will actually walk across, because we got nothing for anybody to walk across yet. So we need some things for people to walk across. And those are the leadership teams. They're called the ministry teams. So these are the teams like the outreach team, the missions team, all the teams, all the other ministry teams that we have. And they make up those four parts. So in a world according to a renewal pastor, we would have teams that are designated that focus a lot on reaching people. We'd have teams that focus on touching souls. We'd have teams focused on changing hearts. We'd have teams focused on launching disciples. So they represent the roadway. The challenge, and this is where I want oohs and ahs, if you were to be the bird looking down in the road, right now we're looking at it sideways, but when you look down on it, it looks like this. And each one of those puzzle pieces represent a ministry team. If it were perfect, there'd be a gazillion ministry teams on each one of these planks. Because if you only have one ministry team, if your only ministry team to touch souls is hospitality, and that means if they don't see Ellen or Shannon or Elizabeth when they walk in, then there's no touching of souls. We're going to lose people and they're going to fall into the water because the road's too narrow. We need other teams, other support ministry teams to make that path very, very wide so that we very intentionally, that's the word I was looking for, very intentionally have these very large roadways made up of multiple ministry teams. Okay, this would have been the part for the oohs and ahs. That did not sound sincere at all. All right, I'll make it go away. We need the road as wide as possible, but I'll make it go away. What's needed next? Yeah, think, again, Golden Gate Bridge, those cables, right? To hold the roadway onto the supports. We've got the pillars and we've got the roadway, but it's not going to hang in there if it doesn't have those cables that are supporting the roadway so that everything stays together and strong. What those represent is actually the relationship. Alicia, it's the relationship that you and I have. It's the relationship that you and Alice have. It's the relationship, Suzanne, that you and John have. It's the relationship that we have with each other. If one of those cables gets strained and breaks, does the bridge get stronger or weaker? Yeah. Church is all about relationship. I can make pretty pictures up here, but the bottom line is it's all about relationship. It's about honoring each other, being present for each other, knowing that there's a time when, I can come to Alicia and say, let's get excited about trying something new, but there's a time when it's like, there's something not going right in Alicia's life, and I just need to come alongside her, or we just need to come alongside her. It's the relationship. It's knowing that we're sharing life together with all of its ups and all of its downs and everything in between. We're sharing life together, and we appreciate and we know that we're in different seasons of life at different times. Shannon had the perfect gifts and graces to do a particular role in the life of the church, but if something just happened in her life to where she's not able to use those gifts and graces, we as a church need to say, we got you. We're just going to hug on you for a while. It's okay, right? Because that's what Jesus would do. So those cables are important. And the more cables, the better. But they are the reinforcing relationships between the leadership teams and the ministry teams. Now, if I were to draw a square around this, right here, you know what I'm drawing a square around? Church council. There's where the ministry teams and the leadership teams come together as equals. And did you know everybody that's a professing member of this church is always invited to church council? Did you know that? Did you know how many guests come to church council? Because it's boring. Because they're just going to, I don't know what they're going to do. Well, let me tell you, it's not boring. And if you really don't know what's going on in the life of the church, it's because you don't come to church council. Because there's where different groups stand up and say, here's what we're working on, here's the big thing, here's the thing that's driving us and consuming us right now, here's the thing we see in the future, here's what we're going to be moving towards. All of that, anybody that comes to me and says, well, I didn't know we were doing blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I would probably say, if you come to church council, you'd know all this stuff. with a smile on my face, and then I quickly walk away so I don't get hit. Because there's where the action is. There's where, and if church council is talking about things that we did last 3 months ago, is that a church that's going up or going down? If church council is talking about what's coming up 3 months, 6 months from now, and we need to get ready and plan for, how are we going to resource? Do we have the money? Is it part of the plan? How are we going to do? Is that a church that's going up or going down? Hopefully going up. Hey, Carol, it's good to have you. Thank you for coming. So, we've built a bridge. Are we done? I'm testing you. Are we done? What have we not done? People. We haven't put people across that bridge. So, are we done? No, we're not. We need to place people on the bridge who God uses to intentionally help people move from one place to the next, because it's strange, we humanity. We like to come, we like to sit, and we like to watch. Will that bring the kingdom of heaven on earth? See, somewhere along the line, if you got told being baptized as a Christian meant you could sit down, somebody lied to you. Because what it means is you're part of Jesus' team now. And Jesus is inviting you into the ministry. That's why we say the church is the earthly body of Jesus Christ. We are the arms and the legs and the voice and all those things, hopefully propelled by the Holy Spirit to bring about God's desire for God's creation. So we need to put people in various places here. You see, you remember that forgive me, I hate using colors, but it's the only way I could make this clear. You remember there was a certain color associated with a guy over here and a certain color with the people over here. These were the blue guys, these were the white guys and gals, okay? So what we're doing is we're placing people who have walked across the bridge already to be at certain places, key places to transition people from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And if we do it right, it looks like this. Where on reaching people, are we reaching blue people? Is our mission to find the Pentecosts? Is our mission to find the Catholics? Is our mission to find the Baptists? Our mission is to find the people who don't have that relationship with Jesus yet. So that's what these people represent. And are we going to just sit in our buildings and say the door's open at 9 and 11 and wait for them to come? Is that going to be efficient? Is that going to work? No. One time I had a mentor tell me, it's too bad church isn't like a soda machine. I went, what? It's like, well, think about it. Coca-Cola. They came up with an incredible product. They could have stacked the product in their warehouse and said, come and get it. But what did they do? They took their product into every gas station, into every school they could get into, into every place where there were people, right? They took their product to the people where the people were. Now that's a John Wesley 101 right there. Remember? They weren't coming to the church, so we're going to go to them. Well, that's this reach part right here. And once we get here, they need to run into people who actually are interested in their life, not overwhelming them because we all have our safe space, but are genuinely interested in your life. You know, if somebody comes to a church for the first time, there's a reason. Would you buy that? And they're not going to tell you what that reason is. At best, you'll find out what that reason is in about 6 months, at best. But there's a reason. There's something that they're feeling they're missing, or there's something they're trying to deal with and it's overwhelming them. There's a reason for coming to church. So that's the being touched, being seen, knowing who I really am, and then on into change and into launch. And people go, wait a minute, you got blue guys going into the water, you got blue guys going into the sky. Yeah. If you've ever had the opportunity to claim a ministry where it matched your gift and graces at any time in your life, you know what that feels like. That feels like soaring on eagle's wings. That's these people up here. They're soaring. They're in the ministry that God created them for, and they found it, they've grabbed it, it's grabbed them, and they are flying. Who are these people? Actually, they're not. One of them's named Peter. Yeah? These people, one of them's named Peter. Remember the story? If it's really you, Lord, ask me to come to you on the water. Those are the wet water walkers who dared to get out of the boat. They got wet, but Jesus caught them. It's okay. But they're the wet water walkers. They're the ones that said, you know what, if he says come, I'm going. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's going to hurt me, but if he says come, I'm going. Okay? 6 key understandings to all of this and the way it kind of wraps around with a renewal ministry perspective. First, we're one family in this church. We are not 2 services. We are one family. That's the joy of what we run into here in what God has done by being out of the sanctuary and having this overlap in between is you're getting to see some people that maybe you don't see. It's like, oh, they're in our church. Oh, they're in... Yes, we are one family, one church. And this is a renewal pastor manifesto, for lack of a better word. I should come up with something. I am here to take full credit when it doesn't work. But who gets full credit when it does? Anybody notice my signature? What's different about my signature? It ain't about me. I'll capitalize pastor, but I'm never capitalizing Mark. It's just a reminder to me of whose initiative this is. It's not mine. It's Jesus's. It's God's. Whose church is this? Yeah, this is God's house. We are entering into this ministry with the youth with a youth initiative with the city of Statesboro. We had their leadership team up in our building, and we were walking around, and they were looking at us with tears in their eyes. And you're going, you're really going to let us use your building? And my answer was, well, it's not our building. It's Jesus' building. And we've discerned that Jesus wants you to be using it. It's all about Jesus. Now, when things don't work, because, when you try things, not everything works. Can I get an amen? All right. Not everything's going to work. And somewhere, I don't know what it was, maybe a decade or a couple of decades ago, we got this impression that if we do something with church because we're dealing something with other people's resources, it's got to be perfect and it's got to work. And if there's any chance it's not going to work, we're not going to take that risk because we don't want to waste people's Here's a different way. God has given us these resources to risk. Ministry is risk. And if that's news to you, you didn't see Jesus die on the cross yet. Ministry is risky. You risk things. It can't all be, it's all perfect. We know that we'll not have any risk in this whatsoever. No, there's going to be risk. We're putting ourselves out there, but we're trusting that the Holy Spirit is with us as well. But I'm here to take full credit when it doesn't work. That's part of my mantra. If we try something that doesn't work, that's the only time I'll stand up and say, okay, that one was me. Let's learn from it and move on. It's not even our church or ministry, it's God's. Goal is not to make the inside bigger if you heard this sermon. It's to make... Okay, now I know who was here that Sunday. The goal is not to make this church bigger, the inside bigger. The goal is to make the outside smaller. And if we can keep that mentality, because the big mistake successful churches make time and time again is when everything's working right, when everything's going good, all of a sudden we start tweaking things to be the way we want them. to be for us because we got resources and we need this and we need this, we want this. And guess what happens in 10 years? Because God's not honoring what we need. God is asking us to be part of God's ministry for changing the earth. Goal is to make the outside smaller. If we focus on God's mission, God will provide. I cannot tell you, and I don't have time to tell stories right now, but I cannot tell you how many times where a group of people in a church got together and said, this is what we need to do, but we don't have the resources for it. We don't have the people for it. We don't even have the right place for it. But this is what we know God is calling us to do. But we don't. That was the sermon last week or the week before, the we don'ts. Listen, if God wants it to happen, I guarantee you everything you need to make it happen will arrive right on schedule. Always, no exceptions. Story after story after story. You know, I wouldn't still be a renewal pastor if that was the case. God is an amazing God. So, and then the last part, and this is kind of my big finish. One of the things, if you're on my staff team, and Haley's back there, if you're on my staff team, one of the things you know I really, really do not like is ministry silos, where this is my turf, I'm going to be on my turf, and you don't step in my turf because I'm controlling my turf, all right? Well, I just put a sacred calling up here, a church sacred calling, that through us, God will reach people, touch souls, change hearts, launch disciples. Those sounds like 4 silos, don't they? Well, here's the concept. In every ministry team, what would happen if every ministry team, I'm looking at you, Bill, even the usher team, had a reach component, had a touch component, had a change component, and a launch component? What would happen if the choir had a reach component? Every single ministry team said, what have we done to bring new people to this team? That's a reach component. It'll get smaller outside for certain. And there's the big payoff. There's where the culture of the ministry plan and this church sacred calling pays off when people start realizing, oh, I've been doing this and none of that and none of that. Because you remember when I put that bridge up there, there were 2 pieces of the bridge that were red. Do you remember, of the 4 planks? What were the 2 pieces that were red? Reach and launch. Because those are the 2 pieces that churches historically go, someone else will do that. And then what do you got? You got a country club. That's what you got. You got a country club. And it may be great for the people that are in it, but you need reaching new people, and you need launching disciples into the world. What questions do you have?